Hello, this is Jessica. Welcome to my story, and this is my story. Today, the part 3 begins with how to beat the bully without really trying. It's the part 3 that shows last night I read part 2, 6, on chapter 6 through 8. So now today, I'm going to read how to beat the bully without really trying. Here's the part 3, and here's chapter 9 as we continue. Chapter 9 The Invisible Boy. The following week, the weeks following Halloween were free and easy, with the possible exception of the day Toby tried to get me kicked out of school. Honestly, it was one of the dumbest things I ever seen, even for Toby. After I emerged from Old Man Johnson's house unharmed, my reputation had only grown. Walking down the halls in school, and I had absolutely started to tell me out. Not one kid passed without a "Hey Ronnie" or "Hi Whitey" or "How is going, Whitey?" At night, my hand hurt from high flying. My hand hurt for high flying everyone. Sometimes it got so crazy at school that Rusty had to step in. "Mr. Webburn can't play ball with you today at recess because he already promised Frank and James a game of hoops. I'll check his schedule and get back to you. Maybe next week." He said he was my agent. It seems the more problem I get, the more I know it's Toby whispering in Josh's ear. It didn't take a it didn't take a genius to know they were plotting something. After all, the whole world had been turned upside down. If they tried to pick on a kid this year, Dave or Smith would say, "I wouldn't do that if I were you. If I was you," and motioning in my direction. I just played it cool and let my reputation do the talking. The afternoon before we left for the long Thanksgiving weekend is when Toby made his move. I was coming back from the boys' room in the middle of the class when I turned the corner and saw him and Josh standing in front of me. Josh making a fist and rubbing it with his left hand. The hall was empty. It all happened so fast that I didn't even have time to panic. I just remember my brain saying, "This is it." Josh pulled back his right arm as far as he could and spent flying on forward. I braced and heard the punch connect. Pow! Right into Toby's face. What happened next shocked me even more. Toby screamed. Ronnie punched me. Help! My nose is bleeding. Somebody! Ronnie punched me and called my names. Trying to get away from before a teacher came out of class. Josh went smack into Mr. Philpott, who had turned the corner in time to see the whole show. "Nice try. You have wits. You have wits." He motioned to Josh and Toby. "Let's take a little walk to my office." Then he turned to me. "Only 84 more days till spring training." I just nodded. As they disappeared, down the hall, I heard Toby tell Josh, "Stop smiling, you joke." That really hurt. Of course, everyone within earshot of Toby's shout star had finally decked him for good. That day, 200 kids must have come up to me and said, "He had it coming. You rule." I would just swan each time, look bored, and mumble, "I guess." On the bus ride home, Josh and Toby glaring out the window at Rusty torturing them. "First we got you, Josh, with one punch to the nose. Then we decided it was your turn. Toby, I wasn't sure who this really was, but was it seems happy, so I keep quiet. Every once in a while, Toby will spin around, start to say something, change his mind, and give me a long, hard stare. He knew, and I knew that he would never tell anyone what really happened in the hallway, and it was sure driving him nuts. Sitting there, full, after a great Thanksgiving dinner, watching football with my dad, I remember thinking that I was perhaps invisible, and for the next month it felt that way. Despite missing lunch grunt, doing her best eraser scalding into meal. December slid happily along. In fact, I had to eat lunch with her only twice. Josh and Toby were keeping their distance, and the best part was Jessica. Lately she has started and talking to me more and more. Even Carolyn had begun to act halfway nice. Through one day before Christmas vacation, I find out why. You know, Jessica whispered to me on the way back front art class. Carol likes Dave. I almost fainted. I almost fainted. Not from the news, but the smell of Jessica's long blonde hair so close to my face. It smelled like strawberries and vanilla. Are you listening to me? She asked. Yeah. I answered, fumbling with some books in my hand. How do you know Carolyn likes him? Duh. Whereupon she told me I was the first time I listened to my last name. It sounded great coming from her lips. Stay focused. Well, Jessica, I don't know if he likes her, but maybe you could do something or say something to him over the break. You can seem to be able to do everything, anything. Then she reaching out, held my wrist greatly in her hand, and looked into my eyes. Couldn't you do? Could you do it as a special favor for me? Trump, 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 Whitey, Trump, 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 Trump. Are you okay, Whitey? Jessica, I was wondering if something you might. Am I interrupting you? Was she interrupting me? I felt Jessica's hand let go, and she went off to catch up with her friends. For once, thought I was kind of glad Russie had a big mouth. I was still afraid that if I asked Jessica out, she might say no. I need a few more weeks to get up my nerve. Right before, right before heading into bed that night, content that everything was going better than I could possibly dream. I glanced out the window and noticed that it had started to snow. Hey, check it out! I yelled to my parents. Oh, it's snowing! Mama, it's changing. The weatherman didn't say anything about. She was interrupted by my dad, who sang in her ear. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas just like the ones. You are no you are no brain Crosby. She giggled back, giggling him. I watched the two of them goofing around, the fire crackling. My sister was in bed. Christmas was only 2 days away. Everything was perfect. I returned to looking outside and smiling at the falling snow. It wasn't long before I crushed every flake. Chapter 10. I Meet the Beast. Every Christmas morning, my sister woke me up and we tore down the steps into the living room where my parents waited, surrounded by presents. My sister squealed with light delight as she opened little packets containing Polly Pockets or Barbies, but Barbies, but I looked intention for the one gift I wanted. A cherry green and red pepper. paper, made reminiscences of balls, and dumped the clothes, books, and other things to the side. Once I finished opening everything, I sat back, quiet, trying to hide my disappointment. Wiley, you didn't look under the shell, my dad said. I zoomed around and there it was, badly wrapped, indicating my father had done it. A box that was just the right size. I started ripping it open and he jumped up to me just to join me. My mom said, Donna, is that what I think it is? How much was it? My dad just laughed and grabbed me and we turned to the den to set up the most advanced video game system around. Well, it might have been my present. I think my dad had bought it for himself. The two of us played video games for the next 3 days as the snow fell softly outside. Then one morning, my mom walked in and pulled the plug on the right in the middle of the tennis mats. We stood looking at her in shock. Donna, do you really want to spend your 3 days off this Christmas playing video games? Do you think you should finish cleaning out the basement? My mom's crusting written crusters. They were odors. And you, she said, turning to me now. Don't you want to go outside and play in the snow? Don't you want to leave me alone? Don't you want to leave me alone? I almost blown out, but this was my mom, and even I knew better. She continued, I had to clean the house. We're having the windbaggers over for dinner. My dad and I were running psychologically. Now, now, she continued, we, we're new to this town, Donna. Fred and Elsa were good enough to have you and me over last month. My dad let out a sigh. I haven't met them there. But my dad growled every time he heard their name. In a way, Whitey, somehow I knew what was coming and my stomach tightened. Don't you want to go sledding with your friends? Ever since the snow started falling, I knew one of my parents would bring up sledding. I hate sledding. The way other kids hate going to the dentist. That's how I feel about going to the top of some hill and zooming down a million miles an hour. My daddy is a big sled and tobogganer guy and had taken me years ago. But I screamed and cried the whole way down the hill. With happy return. I don't know, Mom. Don't you need help cleaning or something? She looked at me like I had two heads and was about to open her mouth when when the doorbell rang. Probably one of the neighbors, she said, slightly irritated. I followed her to the door, adding, and besides, none of my few friends in Garrettsville are into sledding. Upon opening the door, we were grinning about Russ standing there holding a sled. Hey, Ronnie, we're going to the hill. Do you want to come up there with us? He asked. Before I could even make out some lie about shows, my mind answered for me, yes, he does. Rusty, isn't that right? Wiley? Great. Rusty shuddered and came in while my mind dug out my snow clothes. The thrill began pumping through my veins. I had to get out of this. Thoughts of me shooting down a large hill and crashing it and busting my head open went through my mind. Even worse, if it, what if I pegged at the top of the hill and the kids made fun of me? This will be another day of having to maintain my thoughts, my toughness and bravery and lies. I could feel the hand of doom reaching out and patting me on the shoulder. Actually, it was Rusty. We can share my sleigh, he suggested. For a second, I relaxed. At least with someone else to steer. I could close my eyes and hope for the best. And more importantly, none of the kids would discover that the great winding Rexbone do nothing about turning or stopping a sled. Nonsense, my father shouting as he walked up the basement steps. I have the best sleigh in the world for you. Cool, Mr. Wupon, was the answer. Ready to go, Dad. Ready to go, Dad. Why don't you just push me off a cliff? Come on. My dad laid us outside. We had to run to keep up with him. Finding his ladder in the junk fair garage, he told me to hold the button as he climbed the walking steps to the storage window above. After some groans and muttering, he started to sled a long orange plastic sled down to the floor. It must have been at least 6 feet long. He got it down, grabbed it, and held it up for us to explain. This, boy, is the beast. It is the fastest, best sled I ever owned, and that is yours. Wow, that's awesome, Weston explaining. You'll be the king of the hill, won't you, Whitey? You'll be the king of the hill, won't you, Whitey? No question about it, my dad shouted back. Oh, great, I'm muttering about my dad and his favorite. New son were too excited to notice my lack of insubordination. There is no sled that can match it, my dad continued. Excitement. You're going to travel at light speed, Whitey. Swear, I grumbled. Pausing and senseless my hesitation, my dad added, don't worry. It's easy to see. If you want to turn to the right, just drag your right hand and little in the snow. That will create some drag and turn you in that direction. It's a clearance, and like I said, this sleigh is the best. Now get out there and on that hill. He closed the garage and bounded up the steps into the house. I watched him go, resting that could share some of his excitement, not watching his skill with a sled. With a downcast, worried heart, I headed off with Rusty to the hill. Chapter 11. King on the Hill. After 30 minutes, trundling along with a 6 foot sled and a fool for a friend, I was tired and it's no better move. I was tired and no better move. You're going to love. Excuse me. You're going to love the hill. It's huge. Look, there it is. He wasn't trying. It was gangling, and despite it being cold out, sweat dripping down my body beneath my ladle. I stood for the moment at the bottom, taking it all in. Hundreds of people lunging over slightly in every direction. Some down wide open ones, others down narrow trails through wooden hills. I was about to stick my head into a snowdrift when my friend spotted me. Hey, Riley's here. Hey, Riley's here. They yelled. Riley's here. Now the day can really start. Slim nodded. They were all walking up and monitoring my sled. Other kids from school came running up to me and greet me. I'm here too, Weston stumbled. And no Rusty. Slim was over there. Wow, that's some sled. Wiley. It's huge. I bet fast. Yeah, I agree. You better know everything about the hill because some of the trails are super dangerous. Yeah, especially in the slaughterhouse trail. Rising at it. The slaughterhouse. I Googled it. I hope I didn't sound as scared as I felt. Yeah, no one goes down that anymore. The last person to try it was Dave's cousin, and he broke his leg. He hit a tree. They explained. Slim continued. Yeah, he had to turn into the tree, otherwise he would have fell into the real rivals of Dune, and then you're gonna. But we don't slay anyway near it. My relief was short-lived, yeah, 'cause you're too scared. Toby's unmistakable voice sounded behind us. Josh and I got off the wild thing and didn't see long seagulls over there. Do you see them, Josh? John stood behind Toby wearing his lethal jacket and smoking it. Nope, he answered. It was the most I had heard of him since Thanksgiving. Toby dropped in his sled and began squeezing it in and snowballing, making it hard on him and until it turned to ice. He looked up at me, and for a fleeting second I saw he wanted to draw it right at my face. Instead, he turned and lunged it at some kindergarten. It landed several feet in front of the little kid in a Spider-Man hat. Toby frowned. Nice draw, Rice laughed. Toby seen but I saw him notice the beast, and maybe its size and bright orange plastic sheen silenced him. You like it? Rice asked him. If you real particular, maybe why they won't flatten you with it. With that, we left our snail foes and followed Wasi up the hill. I realized that by the time the day was over, there was a very good chance I would either break a leg or pee in my pants. Neither operator appealed to me. We keep going. The higher we went, the steeper it got. At one point, Slim never reached for slipping and slide all the way down on his back. Real nice. A girl's voice shouting from close behind us. It looked like a big upside down turtle. The voice was very vulnerable, so I wasn't surprised when I turned and saw Carla laugh. She wasn't alone. Samantha stood in a white coat, also laughed at Slim, and below her, in a pink outfit, stood Jessica. Instead of feeling happy, I couldn't believe my bad luck. The last thing I knew was her seeing me wipe out, swallowing the fear bothering her. Up inside me, I found dazed and rusty to the top. Far below us, we can see all the streets and peaks and parks of Garrettsville, and I could even see Barbara intimidated in the distance, but up here it was quiet. The rain seemed to blow all other sound away. Russ looked over at Day and me and said, "Okay, let's do it." Wait, the girls are on our way. They pointed out. They'll be up to us in a minute. We're still shaving as they approached us. The sky had turned dark gray and snow had started to fall. Suddenly, I wish I had never pretended to be everything other than what I really am. A coward. I wouldn't have to keep providing myself to anyone. I wouldn't be standing up here terrified at what was about to happen. I could be at home in my cozy room. What's with him? I heard Keller ask. I look up and notice everyone started staring at me. You look like you're about to cry. No way, I said. I was just trying to figure out the scariest, craziest way to hell head down this molehill. Molehill? Russ shouted. Do you hear him? My man Rodney's not afraid of anything. I looked at Jessica and the two of us smiled. In the instant I knew I would have crashed in a minute. I was shaking in front of her. Oh my friend. Oh my friends. That's a pretty nice sled, she said, pointing to the beast. Oh, yeah, wait. Um, what he means to say, he means to say, um, Rusty interjected. It would, it would like you like to ride with him on it. Well, I don't know. It looks pretty fast. Oh, it's fast, Jessica, but it's nothing Roddy can't handle. He was like the sledding champion of New York. Shut up! You're embarrassed. Then he turned towards me and whispered, it's time you thought about giving your agent at raise. At, I work in overtime here. Go have fun, buddy. Okay, I'll go with you, Whitey. Jessica agreed, smiling at your nervously. Terrific. Now when I mess up, I'll be taking her with me. I'm wondering if she'd still talk to me after we smashed into a tree. I gobbling again, climbing into the sled back of Jessica. Her hair blew into my face, and lost up there, on top of the hill in the clouds. I thought I was in heaven, until Carol's voice brought me back to earth. My sled, my sled slid down the mountain. Isn't isn't anyone going to do everything? The girls had brought only two sleds with them in the first place, and now Carolyn had conventionally set one free. Dave, she began. I had an idea. Maybe I can ride down with you on your sled. You had to give her credit. Hmm, sure. Carol, hop on. Well, now that we're all set, Weston announced, let's do this. They and Carol were the first one to head down. As they showed up, I thought I heard Carol tell Dave, hold me tight. Samantha followed, and then Weston pushed off. As Jessica and I adjusted ourselves, the beast started moving forward on his own. Rodney promised me that you won't do everything. You won't do anything crazy, Jessica yelled back as we suddenly shot down the frighteningly steep slope. I was too terrified to answer. Rodney, she shouted, sitting in front of me. Jessica couldn't see the pennant on my face. My dad wasn't kidding when I said I had the fastest sled on the hill. We were zooming down the trail and already coming up on the other guys. I heard Rusty shout, ready to go. The first big turn was coming. I tried to finish settlers into remembering what my dad had said about steering, waiting to turn right. I pushed down hard with my left hand. The beast immediately swung farther to the left, and before I had that time to think, we were zipping between two bushes, straight onto Slaughterhouse Trail. We passed right in front of shocking Toby and George. In the middle, in a corner of my eye, I saw their sleds smash into each other. Slow down, Ronnie, Jessica was shaking. You promised me. It was Russ's voice wrangling out behind us, that brought me back to my senses. He yelled, while his heading in for the rival of doom. The beast was now traveling at warp speed, and seemed to have a mind on its own. Are you sure you know what you are doing? Jessica screamed, prancing on my leg onto my legs. She did it sat so happy and I was way too terrified to answer. My brain completely shut down. I didn't know what was going to come me. And even if I did, I couldn't do everything about it. The beach was in its glory. We were orange, bloody, and just about airborne, while her voice shouted, "Watch out for the river of doom!" Ah! Jessica screamed as we flew straight off the cliff. The beast slid in above bundles, and I could see little kids far below at the bottom of the hill, staring up at us. Jessica continued, screaming and torn and burning her face in my chest. Her eyes were closed and she couldn't see the fear in my own eyes. "We're dead, we're dead, we're dead," was all I could think. We started to plunge. I clapped my eyes shut. The beast bounced off something had hard that showed us, but we almost flipped and did two complete circles before coming to the ground and stopped in the midst of a crowd at the bottom of the hill. I later found out that something hard where we hit was a giant log or some kids had spent the morning building and pulled kids. "It's okay," I managed to squeak. Jessica was silent, and I realized she was probably crying. We may have survived, but I was sure our friends shall have it. I braced for the worst. She turned tremulous and let go of me and looked at the crowd gathering around us. Then it happened. She flashed a great smile, big smile, and said, "That was amazing. You're crazy. How did you do that? No one's ever gone off the Rivan or Dune. You made it seem too easy. You made it seem so easy." I exhausted and looked up towards the heavens. Somehow I had done it again. "Ah, well, us New Lord, sailing and champions. We got a few moves, you know." "Ronnie, that was the coolest thing any boy in this town has ever done," she explained as she stood up. By now, my gang had its hat and half of the populace of Garrettsville had made it over to us. They all seemed to be saying the same thing. That was the greatest sleighing feat in the history of the hill. Disaville covered in snow and not looking too happy. Josh and Toby came winding it up. Toby turned to Josh and said, "Who does this guy think he is? Even Caravan, even Caravan." Josh didn't answer. He was looking down at the front of his beloved leather jacket. It was wet from top to bottom, undoubtedly torn in the crash I had caused. His eyes slowly looked up at mine. They were deadly serious. Not since the first day of school had he given me such a threatening look. He had my gins for a number of slow seconds, grabbing his sled and walked off. Toby looked one last time at me and then, shouting crowd, shook his head in disbelief, grabbing his sled and followed Josh. The snow had stopped and the sun was absolutely shining brightly. We decided to stay at the hill for a while longer and spend time over on the brain monster. When I gave rise to all the little kids who wanted to experience the now legendary beast, Jessica told them what it was like and how I had there like a master. After a couple of hours, and one goodbye for him, for her, I was walking home, longer at the beach and smiling to myself while I heard a hey come from a bus. I mumbled a look at it. Dave's head popped up. He looked from side to side. Is the coast clear? I laughed. Carla was nowhere in sight. Yeah, it's clear. Thanks, Whitey. And with that, he was off and running. I flew blocks from home, while wondering what my mom had made for dinner. I heard the loud, unmistakable rumble of a motorcycle roar from behind me. Oh no! How could I have forgotten? The mud duds were bound to come for revenge at some point. I'm glanced back. Sitting there on a huge bike was a mean looking guy. You riding Ratbone? He groaned. I wasn't about to correct him about my last name. For the second I debating whether to drop the beast and me I run for it. But eventually I just nodded my head. The guy continued. I'm T-Bone. T-Bone. Ratfield. I was just wanting to thank you for taking care of J.D. McDud and his brothers, going there where rats shot and attacking them with bays. Now that's brilliant. Hop on. I give you in your sled and ride home. I'm almost there. I answer, remembering my lessons about Dinos. All right then, but you're now in honor. Ratfield, Ratbone. Ha ha. Ratbone got back in it. Just like Ratfield. We probably related. He got off the bike and came. He got off the bike and came up to me. Since we were friendly and all, I ain't going to. I ain't going to teach you the Ratfield secret handshake. We walked through a brazier cell booths. Once I got it down, he gave me a friendly whack on the back and rolled off into the winter sunset. Chapter 12. Dinner with the Windbaggers. I left the base in the front yard, and walked into the house. My dad sitting in his chair in the living room by the fire, greeting me with a smile. How was Slenny? That's son sled, right? Dad? Yeah, no idea. He didn't say anything, but he turned his gaze towards the fire. A twinkle in his eye told me that maybe he did. The twinkle in his eye was exaggerating when my mother called, Donna, did you finish setting the table? The windbaggers will be here any minute. I had never met with windbaggers, but somehow knew that I wouldn't like them. Maybe it was because one of the face my father made wherever my mother mentioned their name. It was a face like he was sucking in on a lemon. Moments later, the doorbell rang. Ronnie, will you let them in? My mom called from the kitchen. Penny beat me to it and opened the door. The windbaggers wasn't alone with an ugly shell. Cool out there, Miss Windbagger. Boom! Stomping in the snow from his shoes on the mat. Oh, are you precious? Mrs. Windbagger, Mrs. Windbagger said, patting Penny on the head. What's your name? Penny. Fred, isn't she just adorable? There are a lot of kids named after money. Mr. Windbagger said, and you must be Whitey. Heard a lot about you. He stuck out his hand. I reached out and shook it. No, no, he said. Your hand feels like a dead fish, but some muscles into it. I squeeze hand, I squeeze it hard and jerk my arm up and down. That's it. When you're in the business world, Whitey, a good handshake lets the other guy know who's boss. Mr. Wimberger let go of my hand and turned to my dad, who had entered the hall and caught the end of the handshaking lesson. Donna, good to see you. You too, Fred. My dad had that limp face on. Next thing I knew, their hands met with a thunderous clap. I watched their fingers tightening and their hands harder. I didn't know if they were shaking hands or on wrestling. Mr. Windbagger's head turned red and I ran on my dad's forearm bagger to blood. Okay, you two stop horsing around, my mom said. Let's go have some appetizing and by the foul. Donna, fetch the drinks. Whiting, take the coats. My dad and I attend to all issue tasks. And fortunately, unlike my father, I was able to sneak off to the den to play video games. Before I log on to the game, I checked my email then where there was a message waiting for me from Timmy. It read, Whitey, I had the best news. When he was choking me, Walker monitoring that he might be moving it. Isn't that great? I smiled as I walked back congratulating him. Maybe things really do work out for the best. Gravely, I click off the computer and click on the game cursor. I had just blasted my fifth Nanzo when my dad appeared next to me on the couch. This two-player. It can be. I told him. My dad picked up the other controller and joined in. Together we blew up a machine gun nest and a tank. Penny, who always seemed to exist when I was having fun, came in and announced, My mom says you need to wash up for dinner. She then added, Dad, what are you doing? You're supposed to be with the redbaggers. Mom wouldn't like it if she knew. I was just fixing the dropping the controller. He's spiraling it back to the living room as I hauled it from the bathroom. After rinsing my hands, I sat down at my seat at the dining room table before the adults enter. The heavy steps of Mr. Windbagger bagging down. The wood floor in the hall. He walked in and planted himself in my dad's seat at the head of the table. As my dad entered behind him, I could see his eyes narrowed. He looked like he was about to resume shaking hands before he could start anything with Ringbago. Dude, though, my mom suggested, Donna, why don't you sit between Penny and me down here? Mr. Windbagger's mouth immediately started a blagging. What's for dinner? I starved. Spaghetti. My mom answered. You new locals and your Francis food on the food. He shook his head and laughed, shoved some pasta into his mouth, and went right on taking. I got one heck of a deal on a new Cadillac. Why, after dinner, I take you for a ride. It got heated seat. It got heated seats. Wonderful, I said. My mom caught my skills and flashed me a look. Suddenly, my windbagger swung his leg up on the table, almost topping my glass of milk. He put his parent's leg up to his knee and looked at his flashing, hairy calf. The spaghetti lotions are pale. You see these socks, Whitey? Their skin, their skin, cost more than their table. He rubbing his knuckles on the oak. Do you know what that says to people? That you're nuts. You're nuts, I thought. It says this guy's success. People said, that's the guy I want handling my money. I noticed my dad would feel his wine glass. My mom cut in. Donnie and I are so glad you could join us for dinner. Right, Donna? Donna? Absolutely, he choked. My mom went on. With most of our friends and family living back east, it's nice to have an evening like this with new friends and speaking of our friends back in New York. I had a little announcement I wanted to share with my kids. Miss Winbago smiled kindly at Penny and me. My mom continued. I was taken to my friend Michelle back in bedside about how nice it is here. Her husband, Vinny, works from home. He can basically live and work anywhere, and they don't need to be paying New York's high prices. I didn't know what this has to do with me, but at least it shut up Mr. Rambago, for the moment. Anyway, they decided to visit or holler to see if they like it, and if they do, they're going to move here. If everything goes according to schedule, they'll be here before the spring. Isn't that great news? Who's Michelle and Vinny again? And asked Riley, you know, the warm boners, Walco's parents. I chuckled at a meatball. Penny turned to me, as in Walco one boner. I thought about the email I had just read from Timmy. Walker was moving. All right. He was moving here. It was now only a matter of time. I could almost hear my last minutes ticking down like a clock inside my head. My nice little run was over. And that's all for this story of the part 3. I have read chapter 9 to 12. Now, tomorrow, going to be reading on the beginning, start on chapter 13, the tight squirrel. Until then, this is Joseph Kerr. I will see you tomorrow.